So started the Potter's School, a school where everything is possible. Here we believe that kids set out on a bold, innovative journey to shape their futures. And, those are not just words. We truly, truly believe in it because the mission that we have given ourselves is to prepare the next generation for life and work in the 21st century. How we do that? Through educational experiences, life experiences, and we'll talk more about it as we go forward. But as we started this pursuit, our search led us to the globally acclaimed work of Finland-based New Nordic School. Their pre-K to grade 12 educational system empowers students to explore their natural creativity and discover their true passions. As we went ahead with our collaboration, one of the things that truly, sort of resonated deep within both the organizations was the complete value alignment that we had, and wanting to look at the same end objective, which is have an entire generation of young people, that is purposeful, that is curious, that is bold, that is innovative. Of course, our collaboration makes us the first school in Pune to bring in the Finnish education methodology. More on that in a little while, and of course you can check out our website as you go forward. But coming to today, and coming to the challenging times that we're living in right now, the COVID pandemic and this whole thing that we are surrounded with right now, it has forced the world to come to a stop. We are re-looking at everything in our lives, and a lot of the non-negotiables that we thought were that life couldn't go on without, have all been challenged. And I think one of the first things to be challenged is education and how we look at education. So, the topic, new normal, Montessori learning at home, how can we enable uninterrupted learning for our young learners, especially preschoolers, at a time when they are stuck at home, given the pandemic. So at this stage, let me welcome my co-panelist, Suzanne Burkowski. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi everyone, welcome.
Suzanne is co-founder and head of education at New Nordic School. And, Suzanne, I'm so looking forward to this conversation because, every time we speak, it's just, there is this multitude of ideas, and, I think we think about the same things, we are passionate about the same things. And I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot of those ideas with our viewers today.
I love the whole idea of the webinar, and also I think one of the things you didn't share with everyone is that you shared that your tagline is everything is possible, that how that came about, and that we are already implementing primary school or our foundation program with the kids of Potter's School. Yeah. And that tagline was born of the kids themselves. That holds great value and speaks volumes of what we have done together, but also what your teachers, what Potter's Earth and the teachers and the students have done, and the value of everything we're pulling together. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I completely agree with you, and I mean, in our school, the kids show the way always. So, yeah, I think it's the kids who set the pace, the kids who decided that we should call it everything is possible. So yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. But let's begin, Suzanne. Let me first ask you to tell us something about yourself.
Okay. So I was born and I grew up in India and went to school and started university there, and then have lived, studied and worked in the US, in the UK, China, in Singapore, in Saudi Arabia, and obviously in Finland. And a lot of my educational background is from the US, UK and very, very strongly from Finland and a very strong IB background. And having 3 kids of my own and being exposed as a teacher, as a parent to various educational systems, on moving back to Finland, I literally saw the value of the Finnish education system and what I believe the whole Finnish curriculum and the whole Finnish system wants to see happen in the classrooms. And I had the good fortune of getting meeting our co-founders, Janne Jormalainen and Pia Jormalainen, and coming together and realizing that what we could offer was a lot more than just a school, that this was something that was needed out in the world. And one of the things that inspired us, so a lot of the ideas came from my own practice with kids, with parents, the experiences we had. And the big aha moment to take this wider came from the Ken Robinson video, which I believe you will share a link to. And to see that we needed to change the very base of education. You know, the Googles and the Apples of the world are looking at competencies and looking at skills and saying, we don't need degrees anymore, we need these skills and competencies. But that just doesn't happen, you know, clicking your fingers. Yeah. It's got to happen right through education.
Absolutely.
We can't start education in one way and then change it when we get to high school or university.
Absolutely.
And so that's where this whole thing is born of. But it's not a one-man show. It's not a small team show. We have an amazing team at New Nordic School. But I think what takes it beyond that is finding perfect partners to work with, to bring this alive and to make it happen. So I think we are very lucky that we have the opportunity to work with Potter's Earth as well.
I heartily reciprocate. So, you know, before we begin, and let me first ask my audience this. I know that, you know, you had questions in mind when you joined in for this. And, you know, I know that, you know, right now you as parents are grappling with, you know, how to facilitate education in the middle of so much of chaos. So what are the questions that you hope will get answered today? What are your expectations from the sessions, and what would be a good takeaway? What would a good takeaway for you look like? You can put your comments in the chat window. Okay, thank you, Ekta. How to keep kids engaged in these challenging times? Absolutely. Very, very, you know, the $1 million question right now. Are online classes really effective for pre-primary? Yes, we are going to talk about that significantly. Anusha, hi Anusha. In today's difficult world and with working parents, how can we help learning to keep happening? Very, very relevant, because I think we are all facing a change, right? And we are literally forced to make this transformation. You know, I know that, you know, with a lot of my friends, a lot of my you know, ex-colleagues who work in organizations, I know how tough it is to, you know, manage the child at home, manage their learning and work.
I think Anamika also, sorry, a lot of the questions that are coming up will be answered.
Yes.
So yes, I'm happy to see questions coming up.
Yeah. For preschoolers, how do we make learning very natural? Great points. Great point. So let me you know, sort of share my screen and show you what we have lined up. And I think we will be addressing many of these questions. The importance of learning in early years, online learning versus blended learning, your role as parents, teachers, significant adults. Well, you know, we've sort of put that out as a couple of bullet points, but I think I think when we start talking, we are going to cover a lot of the, a lot of the points that all of you are raising. And apart from this, if there is anything more, please just feel free to, keep asking questions. So, one of the things that that we are doing to get adjusted to the new normal is that we are trying to do this webinar a little differently. We definitely want it to be a live interactive session. So, you don't need to wait for the end of the session to post your questions and, ask us your questions. Please just keep posting them as and when they keep coming up. We will be answering as we go along. So, Suzanne, let me ask you this, as an early years education expert with so many years of experience in this space, what do you think of this current situation? This word new normal has been doing the rounds, and I think we're all grappling with it, but what's your view?
So, in my opinion, in taking the context of early years, it's a whole new ball game. We've never ever, or there has been very little thought and planning and ideas given to taking early years education online. So I think when COVID has hit, in the beginning it was like, oh, let's just pause early years and carry on. But as the reality has hit home that this is taking longer, people have had to come up with ideas, come up with different ways of doing things for the early years. Yeah. And what we have done is we've gathered feedback and information for a number of practitioners. Within our team, we have, very wide outreach, and we've kind of tried to put together a very practical solution to this, one that has the balance between the screen time and the activities that happen there. So that kids are not, screen time for us does not mean what we're doing now, that face-to-face, and that a child is just staring at a screen. It's the activity, the engagement, and everything that happens in the background that is important. It is the relationship between the teacher and the child that is important. It is giving the child the skills to be independent, even at home. One of the questions that somebody has posted is, how do you do Montessori activities beyond practical life at home? And that's some of the things we address. And through our teacher training, through the new Nordic School teacher training, we prepare teachers to do that. So we take the Montessori methodology and philosophy and have converted it so that it can be done at home as well, and training the teachers through that. But I think it's from the few schools that are currently implementing our method through our teacher training, we found a lot of success and a lot of very positive feedback.
Yeah.
And as Potter's Earth is also implementing the primary program, our foundation program, we've got the feedback from there as well. So through this whole webinar, we'll address different areas of that. But I think it's something, finding the balance for what is right, not as a whole. What is right in Finland is not necessarily going to be right in India, or we've got schools in France now starting up, and we're preparing teachers for that. We potentially, if all goes well, we'll have a school in South Africa and possibly in the Americas as well. So it's finding that balance, working collaboratively with the schools, with the parents, and finding what is that right balance for that space, for the parents, for the kids, for the teachers, for the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, while yes, there are differences from culture to culture, but I think one thing that remains constant, that we are all equally challenged with, is this whole area of 21st century living, right? And when we talk about 21st century skills, so on one end, we talk about the growth mindset, and we say that, whether it is problem solving or critical thinking, or any of these skills that are doing the rounds as important skills for 21st century. I think one of the most important attitudes and mindsets that we can enable in our children is the growth mindset. The ability to say, you can learn this, and you can do this. And I think children just do it so naturally. And I think we as adults sometimes stand in the way. Even right now, there are debates about, do we really need to teach children? Why can't we just let it be for a year? But, we know through all these years of intense research, whether in the area of neuroplasticity or, early years education, the age group of 0 to 5 years is the time when the child's, capacity to learn is the maximum. And I think it's not just about what they learn, it's also about how they learn. And I think you're right, it's very, very, it's very important that we take cognizance of that. And instead of, sitting back in frustration about the situation, I think we need to, it's our duty as significant adults, teachers, parents, educators, to actually get up and do something about it, and to create a conducive learning environment, online, offline, blended, whatever that is, for our children.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things you said is with the growth mindset is that we need to instill that right from the beginning. And how do we do it? And and we've discussed this really like at length when we've been putting together the mission and vision and the values of Padazat, that we need to instill that, not just, I think as parents, it's so easy for us to say, and having 3 boys, it's very easy for me to say, no, don't do that, or you're doing something wrong. But we need to change that mindset to say, hey, this is done well. Let's try, a different way, or let's try and do it this way.
Absolutely.
And focusing the process instead of the product, and bringing that in to this current situation where we're talking about the process. And when I mentioned earlier about the kids, that we don't measure it by how much time they're making eye contact on the screen, but by what's happening behind the screen, that they're engaging, that the teacher is engaging them and leading them to the learning there. And that's the process, and that's where the competencies come in. That's where the skills come in. And that's the important part that we need to do. And also when we're doing this, to change from saying, oh, that's a beautiful picture, to change it to a growth mindset and say, you've done this really well, and you've used color really well, or look how beautifully you've done a certain thing, so that we move that, they're thinking that there is only one right answer.
Yeah.
That's when we limit the kids. And that's the heart of what I believe, and I've seen evidence that Padazat is doing actively. And we've had many conversations about that, and we'll go into that in deep detail. But also what we train the teachers now to do, even in this online situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. During the summer months, we actually ran a summer program, an online learning program, which was, done completely, through a Google Meet interface, I think, but, through some kind of a virtual interface. And we had children as young as 3 years, 2.5, 3 years come in for that. And, honestly speaking, I think we adults were all a little scared about how it's going to turn out, but the kids had such a ball, and I think the children are just, they adjust quickly, they learn quickly, they innovate, and I think we need to keep up.
Yeah.
I know that there are questions coming up right now, and let me field one for you there, Suzanne. So Aarti, that's a good question there. What's the time limit that's good for a preschooler in front of a screen? And I'm referring that to your point, Suzanne, on what is screen. Is it really just the passive time that you spend in front of a screen, or is it can the screen be just used as one of the enablers of learning?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what we've planned with Potter's Earth for exploration time as an example.
Yeah.
And our whole concept is based, we've had to rethink concepts for early childhood education in the past few months.
Mm.
Everybody around the world has had to do it. And there's been a lot of trial and error, and we've gathered that information. And also, I would say my personal experience in the early years has been a huge contributor to this. And what we found is an excellent balance is to do a session online where we engage the kids, where we can have that social interaction, have that communication between the kids themselves and the kids and the teacher.
Yeah.
And we kick off with, say, 15 minutes of that. And then we set the stage for activities they are going to do.
Yeah. Mm.
And while they're doing these activities, one of the things I've always said in the training is these activities, even at home, have to be such that the kids can work as independently as possible.
Mm.
And it takes a lot of planning and a lot of engagement and a lot of thinking on the teacher's side. But to be able to say to parents, I think firstly, having a space where the child's work is really important. And being able to say to the parents the week before, these are the things you're going to need. And we also want to, some of the questions have been about parents' time, especially with the early years.
Mm.
And what we want is we want the parents to be able to prepare this area, and then the teachers lead the kids in there the same way they would lead them in the classroom.
That's right.
And have the kids work. If one of the questions was, how do you teach math and language online? And we can go into great detail about that. But a very, very simple example, instead of us facing each other as we're doing now, pick a letter of the day. Say you've got the word D, the letter D. Have the kids run around the house and collect things that begin with D. So we brainstorm with the kids, what things could begin with D, and have the kids go around so they don't have that screen time in the traditional sense, but they are listening to what the teacher is saying. The teacher is guiding them. If you have a gigantic house, it's going to be more difficult. Maybe some cordless headphones or something to work there. But to facilitate the kids running around and interacting, are they going to learn more if they're going around the house and picking up, say, or pointing to a dustbin, or taking a picture of it and sharing it? But then they come back and they're sharing with the whole group. Look, I shouldn't have picked her because no examples are coming to mind right now except dustbin. But to go and, or door, to come and say, hey, look, this begins with duh. And they're sharing it because that's when that interaction happens between the kids as well.
That's right.
And the other kids want to see what Anshul or Anamika has brought in, and then say, oh, even I have a door in my house, and make it exciting. That's where the missing link between the face-to-face and the online teaching, that's where that missing link comes alive when they can interact. And the same can be done with math. You walk around and you pick a number. And the kids who are older, you'll say, you give a younger kid a number 5. And you can say to the older kids, how will we get to 5? If I'm thinking of the number 10. Let's get 10 things. And how will you reach 5? How many do you take away? So they can go move around the house. They're thinking of the number. And they're bringing it there. And then they're thinking, how do we get down to 5? And then you could have a little whiteboard or a sand tray instead of paper and pencil
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that they could write out the sum. So you're using that multi-age aspect as well. And then the little kids are listening to the older kids can teach the little kids. That's where that interaction really, really comes alive. So
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
loads of examples that we then prepare the teachers with.
Yeah. And in fact, Balvinder Kaur had a question: what activities are best for children's physical development during this time? And I think it is, I think physical development and physical involvement of a child as young as the early years, it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. And a good, pre-primary program and a good Montessori program must build that in. I mean, that's a given. So, and Suzanne, I just wanted to add something that's baffled me a bit over the, past couple of months. I think we are talking about this debate of online and screens. I think the faster we realize that it is not an option between screens or no screens, the better it is, the faster we will be able to actually design something that works better for the kids. Because, we are dealing with a generation that is digital natives.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot approach what works or doesn't work for them from our perspective, because we are at best digital migrants. We are still learning. Given a chance, we would still want to just move out of our houses and go and meet our friends, but not the kids.
How to use everything digital now, all the technology.
Yeah, I know. So I think the faster, we sort of realize this and realize that the screen, as long as it is not a passive, interface with the child, sitting down and expected to sit down and just stare at the screen for a prolonged period of time, I think instead of that, if we design, a program around, like you said, moving around, physical activity, independent work, I think providing a child the ability to do independent work is so important, because I know that, a lot of my friends who have children in that age group complain about the amount of hard work that the parents have to do during the call, and the parents literally have to be involved and bringing in stuff. And I mean, it cannot be a class without the parent present, and I don't think it needs to be like that.
I think it's finding the balance that the parent is not, and I say this, even when we're thinking about homework, when we're thinking about many different ways of parent involvement, I think the better word to use is parent engagement and the support that happens there. That the way we have our program is that the parents prepare and they're sitting there potentially working up their own, whatever they're doing. And the child is set up to work independently. And one of the biggest questions that have reached us is, where's, the parents want worksheets. Where are the worksheets? If you have a worksheet, you are giving all these kids the same thing at the same time. And you are expecting a set answer and a set way of doing it. Whereas you might have one child who works faster and one child who works slow. And I'm going to use math as an example because that's one most people need worksheets for. If you have, instead of a worksheet, you have, say, a whiteboard. And let's say child number one can only knows their numbers till the number 10. You can write the number 9 on your whiteboard and have the child copy it or on a sand tray and then collect 9 things. And this is where what we've worked together quite closely on creating a little home kit that will prepare the parents and the families and the kids to do these activities. So they could take little counters and create the number 9. It's more valuable than just writing the number 9. Whereas if you have a child that's slightly older and, this is too easy. So you continue on the whiteboard with that child that they write the number 9 and then +2 or +3 or whatever their level is.
Yeah, yeah.
And they create that on the whiteboard. So it's also the kids watching each other, learning. If one finishes faster, one of the questions that somebody put out is, how can I keep my child engaged while they're waiting for someone else? Or when something in this way, the teacher could have multiple boards and give another child something more challenging, and give one child something, I think, engage with the screen and the role of I, as a teacher, continuously had the kids watching a video. That would be screen time. But if I'm chatting with the kids and I have everybody's face there and the kids can see each other and interact and learn that turn taking, and I'm not saying it's the easiest thing, it's not easy. But even if a child is walking around, somebody said that my child doesn't want to sit down. If that child is walking around, asking that child, hey, Anamika, what did you think of this? Or can you find X, Y, Z? Or can you do something? You will get that child to start coming in more and more.
Yes.
Because that child will have that confidence. So knowing the kids, keeping the group sizes manageable. And when I say manageable, we've had a lot of discussions about this, that we try and keep the group size to 10. And so that the teacher can have that personal relationship with each of the kids and where they're at and how to pull them in. So I think there's different aspects to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, let me bring in the audience a little bit over here now. I'm going to launch a poll. So I'd request all of you to take a look at the questions here and vote on them. Which of these is true for you? Wow. Interesting. Okay, great. So we have about 68% who have voted, and that's how it's looking like. 60% have said that their child enjoys their online classes, but misses the school environment. That's true, and well, that is something that we are grappling, all of us are grappling with right now, especially because, the physical environment does so much. But, before we go there, let me, sort of share with our audience something that you were talking about right now, Suzanne, around, how a well-balanced and well-designed blended learning program should look like. So let me just share that.
Anamika, while you're putting that up, one of the questions that someone has asked here is, what if the number goes up to 25? I think that's when one of the things to address and to think about, and what I know Potter's Earth and New Nordic School have planned together, is keeping the hours that the kids are working to a lesser amount, so that there is, as Anamika has put up here, even though you have a 3-hour session, you have circle time or the social time together, that's 25 minutes, and an independent activity that the kids can carry out over the next 2 hours. It might take some kids half an hour to do it. It might take some kids an hour to do it, but they have a 2-hour period where they can work on it independently, and then they come back at closing time to share what they have done, whether it's completed or not. And that's where the teacher role comes in, to encourage that, hey, you've done a great job here. Let's see, maybe you can finish it in the afternoon, or you can finish it the next day, etc. Encourage that child to complete this learning cycle. But when the teacher time is less, you can divide it up and make it into smaller groups that you engage with at a certain time. So instead of engaging with all 25 in a class when you have a pre-existing class, it's engaging with, say, 10 or 12 at a time, and then 10 or 12 at a time. And I'm not saying 10 is the number everybody has to have. It's what is manageable. You have to think of each child's individual needs and how they come together. So a lot depends on the teacher's skills as well. So
Yes.
that ideal number will be found, but you as a parent have to be able to make that decision, that what is good for your child, and either find someone who's willing to comply with that 10 or 12, or ask the school that you're currently in, how can we change this to make it more valuable? I always talk about enduring understanding. If you have 25 kids in an online forum, how are you going to reach all those 25 kids in 25 minutes? It's impossible. So asking the school, asking the right questions, finding the right team to work with, as Potter's Earth has already planned. But if you have an existing school and their class has 25 kids, helping them or suggesting to them that they break it down as well is really important.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, go on, Suzanne.
I was going back to your list there, and addressing that Potter's Earth has also put together a list of activities and a home kit of things that you could use at home, and they will send these kits home so that the families are already prepared, because a lot of families might not be able to step out and buy these things. I know, for example, Amazon works brilliantly there, but they're not delivering to many. So we have this ready. They're online storybooks that can be read. And you have to think of, if you're using an iPad or a computer for a storybook, I think we have to think of that as not focus on the interaction between the teacher and the child, or the parent and the child when you're reading a storybook online, and not think of it as screen time. It's what you do with that book, how you read to the child, how you get responses from the child, that is key to this. And not the actual, that the child is looking at a screen, because that's the only way to get access to all these books when you're locked in.
Yeah, and I think Montessori, the whole philosophy of Montessori, which is learning through play. I don't think it's about very expensive material and well curated. I think a lot of learning can just happen with normal household things. Because I know that a lot of our parents, who are coming in for this program, are also, approaching us from remote areas where they may not have, access to a lot of high quality internet, or, even access to, they may be a little far removed for us to even send material. But, I think the program, not only this program, but I think any good exploration program should take into consideration that, a child, irrespective of where he or she is based, what are his or her, family's, financial abilities, other abilities. I think every child has, deserves a right to learn in the right way. So I think a program like this, when we were designing this, one of the first things that we kept in mind, and, Suzanne, we spoke about it so elaborately during the planning time, that it has to be, something that is, that takes into consideration less passive screen time, using the screen as an enabling tool to communicate rather than teach. The teacher does their role as a teacher, and those are live classes. And do it with simple things. Do it with simple things, with using older children in the household, older siblings, other children in the class, and I think it can, the possibilities are just endless there.
Anamika, if you don't mind me sharing, I just want to share a really simple example that that Podazar shared with me, and it just so happens that it's Anamika's son who did this. They were doing a lesson, and one of the kids couldn't get online. So Anamika's son actually called that child's mother's phone and was relaying what was happening to that child. So there was the online, and the child could hear over the phone. So even though they couldn't, and that was purely his idea. As how old is he? 8, 9?
9, yeah.
And purely his idea. And that's what we mean by competencies. That is something that was his, and that was encouraged. And that the teacher, I'm not sure which of your teachers was there, but to encourage that hey, this is fantastic. And how that little girl must have felt that, someone is taking the trouble to do this. And that's what we want to see happen. And it doesn't matter if we have all these wonderful tools, it's how everything is used. You can use greens instead of numbers. You can write a number on a scrap piece of paper, cut it out from a magazine to use it. It doesn't have to be the perfect textbook or worksheet.
Yeah.
You can write in just get a tray or a plate and put sand in it and write there.
Absolutely.
It's whatever is available in the current situation.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And it is, I think this whole approach to a problem-solving mindset that we got to do what we got to do. So let's figure out how to make it happen. I think as teachers and as educators, we can facilitate an environment where that happens. But I think at the end of the day, it is for them to to have that confidence to be able to go ahead and find innovative solutions. And I know that for example, for the elementary classes and the the primary and middle years classes that we are doing here, the children have taken up community projects that are as serious and as sort of strategic as designing sustainable cities or ensuring that every person is literate. And I must say that when we first started the projects, we ourselves we as the adults were a little skeptical about how we're going to tackle that. But the children are they are, whether it is someone as tiny as grade 1, right till our, grade 7, I think they're just working beautifully on that together. But, coming back to this whole idea of schooling for early years, Suzanne, and, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here and bring in a discussion that has been very prevalent on the social media platforms currently. A lot of people are looking at, why do we really need to even, can't we just unschool our child? And I think, before I ask you the question, I personally feel very strange about that fact, because, homeschooling or unschooling is not a decision that you make on the go. Let's just homeschool for 1 year. And homeschooling is it's a life choice for the entire family. And I think if not done well, the end objective is not met. And what you end up with at the end of the year or the end of that period that you're unschooling or homeschooling your child is, nobody's happy, neither the child nor the parents. So, I do believe that, that children need to learn, and they need to learn at the age appropriate time. But, you also talk about measure, you talk about measure and order in learning. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I think there's two things that we have chatted about earlier as well that comes into this. And I think that, yes, you can homeschool, but somebody had used, and I'm not sure where I read this, that somebody had used an example of, would you let a surgeon who just has passion about something and can maybe sew really well, or would you let a layman who can sew really well and has passion to become a surgeon stitch you up if you had a cut?
Yeah.
Would you want a proper trained person stitching you up? I know which one I'd choose. And you know, there are times when you have to homeschool, and parents are the first teachers for kids. But it's a different relationship that parents have with their kids and what teachers have with the kids. Teachers have the training, and with our whole system, we have the technology platform at this point with Exploration, which is our kindergarten. We have Kindy Days, and what it has, it has our whole curriculum on there for teachers to follow, for parents to follow, that their child is making progress in the right way. It's easy to follow a book, but what else? If you follow a book, it's like worksheets. It's the same thing, where it's just rote learning. Enduring understanding do they get from there? Where do they get the social side? So the difference is when you have someone else come in and do this formal teaching, even if it's in an online way, you've got that expertise in there. You've got that ability to be able to say, this child is doing really well in this area, let's extend them. But not just extend them because they can do something rote or out of memory, but that they have that enduring understanding, and they've gained with that the competencies and skills to advance, and not just be able to do 5 + 5, but actually understand, represent, explain what it is. And I think that's where the major differences happen, is that knowledge that the teachers bring. And I think what's really important is, in the right way, that disconnect, where yes, you're connected with the child, but you're not emotionally, even though teachers get very emotionally attached, but there's that disconnect that you can think abstractly about a child and be able to assess where a child is, instead of all of us parents look at our children with rose-colored glasses.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we speak about the triumvirate, right? You know, it's the triangular setup with the child at the apex and the parent and the teacher as the two balancing, influences, or the school and the home as two balancing influences. And I think, like you rightly said, I respect homeschooling, and I think it's a great commitment for families to take. But I think it is a commitment. I think we need to understand that that there is a benefit that a teacher brings in. There is a benefit that the families bring in, and the balance of the two is very, very important for the right growth and right learning journey of the child.
In the new Nordic School terms, we call it like the tripod relationship.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Of the families, the educators, and the kids.
Yeah, it's a fine balance. Yeah, and I think it's I think what was very exciting for us at Potter's Earth was to see how closely New Nordic looks at this concept of balancing the tripod, and the parental involvement and the parental engagement at a meaningful level, rather than just diary notes and complaints and what have you. I think it's important to understand that we are both equal partners in the learning journey of the child.
And what's key here is it's enabled by the technology platform that we have, that parents can share with educators that this is what my child is doing at home. and get that feedback from the educators, and educators can share with parents, what the child is doing, where the child is at developmentally. And I think what in this case and in the current situation is that it is a wonderful transition for a child, especially for a young child, because we don't know how long or what the future brings with the current situation. That child, can you imagine that day when these 10, 12, 25 kids can actually go into the classroom, and instead of going into a new classroom, they're like, I know you, I've done this before. And then we have it all out there for the kids, and they go in and it's not a shock to their system. They can go in and it's similar, it's just in a different setting, and they already have that relationship. So that's also another aspect that's really important.
Yes, very true, very true. So, we are almost nearing the end of our program today. But let me now bring in my audience in a little different way. So I'm going to invite one of you, whoever, wants to be on the panel with us right now, to to sort of switch on your video and ask a question to either Suzanne or me or both with your video on. It'll be good to hear from you. So in case if you are interested in doing that, please put your, what do you call that? Put your hand up, wave out. Raise your hand. See, we are still grappling with the terminology. So, raise your hand and wave out to us, and, we'll sort of figure out whom to bring in. We have, I think we'll have time for one or two people. All right, so that's Vivo 1804. So let's wait for that to come on. Yeah, but it's
Vivo is Parul.
I'm sorry?
Vivo is Parul.
Parul.
He's just put his name there.
Okay, Parul Bajaj. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thank you.
Hi,
Welcome.
Parul.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much for your wonderful ideas, ma'am. Thank you so much for the wonderful ideas. I just wanted to say that I'm also a Montessori teacher with DD Goenka Public School, New Delhi. And I just wanted to ask about the training process in New Nordic School. So I would definitely want to learn various ideas for conducting my virtual classes from home and taking the Montessori beyond PLE. So PLE is the thing which I can arrange from my kitchen or from the objects which I find in my home. But I would definitely want to learn more things from sensorial or be it language things, because I'm not having the sandpaper cards or any material at home.
Yeah. So Parul, I think the easiest thing would be to contact New Nordic School via info, because we are currently creating some.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, contact us via info, because that's it's a personal question that you need, you would like some training with, and somebody will be in touch with you, and we'll find a way either for your school or for you personally. We'll see how we can do that, but there are many, many, many ways to make that happen.
Thank you, Parul. Thanks for the question. I think we can take one more question, and we have Ekta Sehgal. I think we do have a lot of questions and a very active audience, huh, Suzanne? Yeah. I think it's been a good evening for us.
Ekta's on now, except Ekta, you're on mute still.
Yeah. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Everyone. Hi, Anamika. Indeed, a wonderful discussion, though I missed a bit. I got a call in between. But as a parent, I have a 3.5-year child who has just started her formal school. And she has 2 online classes with a break of about 5-10 minutes. What I observe is that the children are very fidgetive, when they are attending online classes, which effectively means that I am back to my nursery days of attending those classes. My biggest concern is that while, they are learning, which is absolutely perfect, fine, and, we spend whatever time we can, but I had asked this question in the chat box. I'm not sure whether you addressed it, but how does these online classes, right, impact the child's psychology if they become negative towards it? See, because at the end of the day, we are making the child forcefully sit down there to attend the class, right? In a school, in a physical environment, it is very different. So if the child becomes negative, how do we deal with the child?
Ekta, I think the key to just asked is, you said, we're making the child forcefully sit down there, which to me as an educator thinking about early years online, is that our goal? Is the child going to learn by being forced to sit in one place? What can we do differently to engage that child so that child can move around? They don't have a model there or an expectation when they're home. And this goes back to the homeschooling and the schooling part. What the teacher skills, that teacher engagement is key here, to understand that these kids, when they are alone at home, they have the freedom. It's their home. It's their turf and their rules and their family's rules. And that's where they should have the freedom. So using that freedom to engage the kids, to get the kids to learn through those freedoms with, for example, through the examples that I gave with language, with collecting things beginning with a certain letter and sound, to collecting math, even shapes that we're studying, for example, cylinders. Walk around the house and see where you have cylinders, and engaging your child to sit there and say, look, I collected these cylinders. This is a can of beans. This is a can of pickup sticks from my toys. This is a can of Pringles. And that these are all cylinders. So even that 2 minutes where your child, because she has been able to walk around the house and move around and collect things and can come back, she's waiting for her turn to share with the other kids. And it's getting that, again, this is where the teacher skills come in really strongly, to be able to know that, hey, Ekta's child, I can see her getting restless. Let's engage her now and let's ask her. Or bringing the kids when if one child has a can of beans, to ask the other kids, do any of you have a can? So pulling them into those conversations, getting them engaged in what they're doing and getting them involved, getting them to focus there for that short while, but also giving them the confidence that they are doing something as part of that. And that will slowly build. As a 3-year-old, we don't want to force it. We don't want that your child becomes reluctant to do that. Right. We want to encourage the child. We want to coax the child into doing this. And engaging that your child is key there. And think about the difference again. If your child has to sit down, I'm the teacher in front of the screen, and I'm asking your child to only color the cylinders. It brings nothing to that child's learning in the engagement with the teacher. Whereas if I have all these activities, and then as an independent activity, they could draw or color or trace anything that they have found, how much more value that has.
Absolutely. So more hands-on experience is what you would prescribe.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me also add on to that, Suzanne and Ekta. This is, I'm picking up from one of the experiences that we had with one of our young learners. He was this 3-year-old child, and he just would not sit in front of the screen, and our teacher reached out to the parent because, one of the points I want to make here is, I think, all our teachers have been, and I know that most schools do this, but I can tell you on behalf of my school, I think our teachers have specific, well, they don't even need to have instructions. They are the kind of people who would just reach out to the families and say, Siddharth is not in front of the screen, and what can we do? So talking to the mother and talking to the parents and actually conferencing with them to figure out how can we solve this problem together. Now, one thing that we realized was, that the screen would be on. He didn't want to sit in front of it. He would be right at the back near the door. He wouldn't run away. He'll stand near the door and he'll attend the entire class, but he'll stand near the door, and if a teacher were to call out to him, he would just, collapse, start crying. And I remember, we had discussed this with Suzanne, and a great idea that we had implemented was, his mother told our teacher that he has a favorite toy. It's a soft toy, it's a teddy bear with a name. And so the mother put the teddy bear on the chair. So the teddy bear was attending the class, and Siddharth was near the door. And the teacher would say, so what color is this? And then some child would answer and another child would answer. And then the teacher would address the teddy bear and say, so what do you think this is? Oh, so you're saying red, is it? And from behind, Siddharth would say, no, it's blue, and that's how he just got involved, and slowly he just kept walking ahead. Every day there was this one little step that he took ahead until the day that he was just sitting next to the teddy bear. So I think, what I'm trying to say here is that, if we remember and realize that we are all in this for the child, and at the end of the day, the child needs to have a fun, holistic learning experience. And we are all, you as the parent, my teacher as the person who's facilitating, we as the educators, I think our job is just to come together and make sure that we do whatever is required for that child. So, I think, and I know that, Ekta, that was actually a great question. And there were so many other, similar questions here, which spoke about what do I do about this problem regarding my child or that problem. And I think we just need to say this is a non-negotiable. If it's a problem with the child, we need to figure it out instead of forcing it on the child.
Correct.
We are the ones who have to adjust and not the child.
Right. And as I read that you saying that basically you should look at a 25 to 30-minute class and then maybe have a more hands-on activity with the child independently.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I'm going to take some cues and share it with the teacher also, because that 90 minutes are starting to burden us, because more than the child, you have to pay attention to understand, so that in case the child misses something, then you understand, and because it's very difficult for us to go back 30-35 years to remember the nursery cycle.
Or just join Potter's Earth, even easier.
Quite right. Thank you so much for the insight.
Thank you, Ekta.
Thank you.
And there's been this amazing slew of great questions, and we've tried to address as many questions as we could, but in case if your question has been either left unaddressed, or you want to reach out to either Suzanne or me over the weekend for a one-on-one chat, we'll be very happy to do that. How you could do it is that at the end of this webinar, you will receive a survey form. So please fill up the survey form, and that would okay, there the link to the form is up on the chat. So please fill up the survey form. I request everybody to fill it up, notwithstanding whether you want to connect with us or not. But we would surely set up sessions. You can reach out to us at any point of time. All right. So it's been a great chat as always, Suzanne. Thank you so much. And thanks to our audience. Would you like to say something before we wrap up, Suzanne?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I mean, it's a Saturday evening and I know everyone's in lockdown, but still you chose to be here. And keep the questions coming, and Potter's Earth team will compile the questions and we'll get back to you with answers. And spread the word. It's a wonderful thing Potter's Earth is offering, and especially in these times, and a wonderful option to traditional teaching. So thank you so much, and thank you Potter's Earth for doing such an amazing job, and then also for inviting me to join here.
Our pleasure always. Our pleasure, Suzanne. Thank you, everybody. And, as a parting shot, as we always say, if you're confused, just let the children lead the way. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.